Hello, my name is Joel Hedegaard, and I'm a teacher and researcher at School of Education and Communication at Jönköping University. And I'm involved in the research environment, lifelong learning at NCEL.
And my name is Martin Hugo. I'm also a teacher and researcher here at Jönköping University. And I'm also part of the research group, Lifelong Learning.
Yes, and we will talk about a study we have done at some folk high schools. And we have looked at the courses for senior participants. But first, something about folk high schools. It's not everyone is aware of what folk high schools are. So it's a typical Scandinavian or Nordic education system for adults. And they offer both general courses, which corresponds to upper secondary school level. So it's mainly younger people who have had a hard time in the traditional upper secondary school, who try to manage their studies through folk high schools. But the folk high schools also have so-called specialized courses. And the topic in these courses are widespread, and also the levels. Some of these specialized courses are on traditional upper secondary school levels. But there are also almost elite courses, particularly within the aesthetic area, which correspond to some sort of post-secondary level. And folk high schools in Sweden are quite popular. There are 156 folk high schools, and approximately 150 participants each year. And as I said, we have done a study on senior courses, and approximately 33,000 of the 150,000 participants are 60 years old or 60 years old or older. It's hard to say.
The aim of our study is to describe how folk high schools, FHS, courses for senior citizens are organized, and what role these courses plays in the participants' lives would respond to meaningfulness, well-being, and lifelong learning. And the selection and method we have used is focus groups. We have done 8 focus groups, interviews conducted at 8 different folk high schools in the southern part of Sweden. And 6 of the folk high schools were located out on the countryside, where most of the folk high schools are located, and the other 2 were located in cities in the south part of Sweden. And in these focus groups, there were 33 participants. 19 of them were men and 14 were women. And the age of these seniors were ranged between 55 and 94 years old. And then we made an analysis, content analysis from Krippendorf. And results from these senior courses was that we started with to describe how senior courses are organized at these folk high schools, and we found 4 different types of courses. Number 1, they were based on a school timetable, similar to lessons in different school subjects. For example, mathematics, history, English, or arts. So it was to study again, like in upper secondary school or something like that. Number 2 resembles a community club for pensioners, where they can choose between different activities during the days. For example, playing table tennis, doing gymnastics, singing, food preparation, photography, or getting to know the work of a particular author. And the third point here, there we found another type of courses, intensive courses in a specific subject. For example, ceramics, graffiti course, photography, Bible studies, or English. And the last one were thematic studies. They were very popular. They were directed at school studies, which often include field trips for the participants. In the end of the course, they went out for a longer trip on these courses.
Yes, and which roles do the senior courses play in their lives, the seniors' lives? The first one, quite obvious. It created a structure and a sense of duty in their lives. Structure. They have some of them have been pensioners for quite a while, and many of them actually said that they had a hard time to create some sort of structure. The days had a tendency to meld together, and the weekdays and the helg, Saturday and Sundays were meld together. But now, when they had an activity to go to, it created a structure, but also sense of duty, that they had some sort of responsibility, both towards the teachers and also the other participants, to actually participate in the course. Some sort of demand to be active and to participate. And another result from them going to the courses were some sort of social development. Also quite obvious. Some of them were quite isolated, without a large social life, and now they had the opportunity to meet other people in a similar situation, and that also meant that they got they learn things at the courses that they can use in other social situations. For instance, many of them said that it had increases the quality of the content in their discussions with their partners. They had gotten more more content, but also some of them told us that they now have an easier time to help their what's the word I'm looking for? Grandchildren with homework. They have become more up to date in various subjects, so they can help their grandchildren with homework. in some cases, it's primarily a strong passion for the content of the course. We saw that in the Bible course,
and the graffiti course.
Graffiti course, definitely, and ceramics. They had a specific interest, and they wanted to develop and evolve within that subject. And also, lastly, intellectual activation. Of course, studying, more or less, regardless of which subject, it's an intellectual activity. So that helped them to stay alert. So why do the senior participants enjoy the folk high school courses? That's quite an important question to ask. They found that the courses were participant directed, which meant that they had a big opportunity to influence both the content to some extent, but also the form. They were very fond of that. And also the learning that took place. Many describe that as being an unpretentious form of learning. They compared to when they had studied when they were younger. And the study had a specific goal or aim previously, to get a diploma and to get work and so on. But now it's more for their own sake. And that was very calming, I would say.
And then it was also point number 2. It was we saw an intergenerational and intercultural learning and meeting place on these folk high schools. It was they had activities together with the younger people, and they said to us that they have learned so much from youngsters that have quite big problems before in school and with other things in life. And they also had opportunities to have activities together with the refugees in folk high schools that have special courses for refugees. So they were cooking food together with women from Somalia and other people. And for some of the seniors, this was the biggest thing with these courses.
I just a parenthesis. It was only one person, but an older man who said that the most important learning for him during the course was tolerance, because as Martin just said, that he felt that he was quite privileged, and he saw the refugees, he saw the young people, some of them with quite who were disabled quite heavily. So it was a natural state after a while to develop some sort of tolerance. Sorry. The last point, lifelong learning increases quality of life. It's similar to intellectual activity. To enjoy and be able to attend courses and to continue to learn, that feeling is or were very important for the majority of them that we interviewed and talked to. It really added something that many of them lacked before. So it's that was important. So this is all for now. Bye bye.